Welcome to the Customer Wins Podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Today, I'm speaking with Rocky Lalvani, founder of Profit Comes First. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, I'm really excited to talk to Rocky today. Rocky Lalvani is the profit answer man. He teaches business owners how to ensure they get paid and make profit a priority. As a certified profit-first professional, he implements I can never say his name, Michalowicz. Profit-first system. Thanks for jumping in. We knew we were going to do this. Rocky started with nothing when his parents immigrated to the United States when he was only 2 years old, and his parents were in their 40s. It was his parents' second time starting over in life as they moved here to experience the American dream. In spite of a lot of struggles and his mom passing away when Rocky was only 7, he's been able to achieve financial and life success. Rocky loves to share his journey and inspire others to achieve their dreams even faster. This is why I wanted to talk to you. Rocky, welcome to The Customer Wins.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So for those who haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Rocky, let's understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
So kind of all of those things that you just mentioned, I had a major aha a few years ago, quite a few years ago. I assumed that business owners understood the business of business, which meant that they looked at their P&L, their balance sheet. They knew how to run their business. Turns out, the truth is most business owners don't look at their finances, just like most people don't look at their finances. They went into business to do what they loved. And accounting and finance were either not on the list or really low on the list for many of them. And if that's the case, when you try and run your business and you're blind to what the numbers are, what's happening financially, you tend to make not the best choices and you tend to get in trouble over time. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we fix that. We look at the business owner. What are their goals? What did they want their business to serve them with instead of them being a slave to their business? And how do we make that happen by looking at the financials and the results and building a plan going forward to holistically run their business to serve their life?
Nice. You're right. So many entrepreneurs are like, I have this skill, I'm going to go do it. I work with a lot of financial professionals in my industry, and I think a lot of them are about the financial planning process, not the business side of things. It's true of doctors and other types of practitioners. They're practitioners first, not business people first. But I'll admit something else. Like I got my degree in finance, so I'm comfortable with financial statements and such. And I don't look at the numbers that much. I let my COO and my accounting team do that. And if I go for a month or two without looking at it, I start to feel twitches like, what am I missing? So I love that your focus is on that. Why do you say profit first?
Well, what's the purpose of a business?
Well, for a lot of people, like you said, it's the practice of what they're doing, right?
You can't do what you love if you don't have money, right? Because you still got to put food on the table. You got to pay your mortgage. You got to take care of your kids. If your business isn't profitable, then let's be honest, you have a hobby, and hobbies are wonderful. But I hope you have money coming in from somewhere else to pay your bills and to support your hobby. And right. I think that's the key. So a business needs to be profitable. And the question then is, well, how much is enough? Well, I think
Can I ask a different question?
Yeah.
How do you define profit then?
So this is a tricky one, right? And sometimes you have to say certain things to get a point across, but then the reality is different. And here's why I say this, because you probably know it. If you look at a profit and loss statement, at the bottom is the profit, but profit doesn't equal cash in the bank.
Right.
Right. And so they are two separate numbers. At the end of the day, it's really about how much cash can you appropriately extract from the company to, and again, going back to what I was going to say, how much cash do you need for your life?
Mhm.
And how much cash does the business need for the business to operate stably? And what that means is I can make payroll in 2 weeks. It
Mhm.
means if COVID hits and things are uncertain for 90 days, that we're going to survive 90 days. So I think those are the two questions. How much cash does the business owner need to live their life in a comfortable lifestyle? And how much cash does the business need to consistently perform and grow and be safe? And that's what you got to figure out. And then that's what you have to ensure. And as a business owner, you got to ask yourself, am I willing to work as hard as I need to for the lifestyle I want? And that's a
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. So this feels a little bit like budgeting. I don't want to budget my expenses first because I can easily spend all the money in the world. I want to budget my income first against what I have to be able to spend so I don't go into debt and not be able to afford my lifestyle. I'm building corollary. I'm not saying it's exactly like that. But when let's also talk about the stages of a business, right? Because in a startup phase, you may not make money for the first year, 5 years, whatever it is your startup is going through. Then you might get to a comfortable phase or a high growth phase. So, how do you approach the different phases of a business with this concept of profit first?
Begin with the end in mind. So when you start this company, you need to tell me, is it going to take us a year to make money? Is it going to take us 5 years to make money? Because if it's going to take us 5 years to make money, how are we going to pay for those 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Are you personally wealthy and you're putting money in? Okay. Are you going to borrow? Well, if you're going to borrow, does whoever you're borrowing from have the capacity and the desire to fund you for that long and to ensure that you can get out that far? And then the other part of it is, as those years go by, are we hitting our milestones? Is what we said actually working? Because you might have to pivot, right? Many companies pivot. Hey, we started out with this idea. Uber pivoted. Netflix pivoted. All these companies have pivoted over the years. And so you've got to have something to say, is it working or do we need to pivot? Because you can have $1 million in revenue and be losing money faster than you can imagine. So
Right.
I think that's the other half of it. So what is our plan? And is our plan realistic? So we're recording now in the middle of October. Right around now, in the next 30 days, I'm going to sit down with all my clients and say, what does 2025 look like? And as part of that, well, we're going to do X amount of growth. Okay. If we're going to do X amount of growth, what is it that we're going to do to get the growth? Do we already have a growth trajectory? And we're like, hey, we've been growing at this rate, so it's actually consistent. Or is it new growth? Or are we bringing on a new service? What are we doing differently that you're going to grow whatever percent you decide for next year? And then the second half of the question is, what do we need to deliver that growth? Do we need to hire somebody? Do we need a
Mm-hmm.
new machine? Do you have capacity? Like, what's going to change in order for you to be able to do that? And so we'll plot that all out and we'll put the numbers down and say, does it make sense or does it not make sense? Because the thing I find, most entrepreneurs, they've got an amazingly positive attitude, a little too positive sometimes. We're going to double our sales next year. Great.
Wow.
How? Because the last 6 months you've been going down and supposedly a recession's coming and ChatGPT came in the market and others are hurting because of XYZ. What are we going to do? Like, show me a plan.
It's a really hard thing to do, especially in the early days of your business. But just in general, it's a really hard thing to do to forecast. At least that's been my experience, because you can go out and do what you think are all the right things to do, and they turn out to do nothing for you. And you can have also windfalls that you didn't expect. Bigger customer comes your way that you had no idea was going to happen, or you lose a customer. That's another possibility that happens. So I've always found that when you start saying, I'm going to achieve this, it's a lofty vision of what you want to get to, but it's really about what are the levers you're pulling to drive for that goal, and do you know what they are? So there's a book I read, The Four Disciplines of Execution, that I liked, and it talks about leading versus lagging indicators. Do you talk about that with your clients?
Yes. So if you tell me we're going to grow 20%, then my first question is, how are we going to get to 20% more clients? So where is that going to come from? It can come from a variety of ways. It can come from a price increase. It can come from getting your current clients to buy more. It can be from new clients. So if we're going to get 20% new clients, what are we going to do to drive whatever that lead flow is to get the 20% more? And what does that metric look like? And what is it? Is it just throwing more money at a proven marketing plan that already works? Or are we going to add a new channel? Are we going to do something different? And then how are we going to test that and know that it works? Too often we throw money at all our problems and we expect the return. And more often than not, what we do is burn money.
Yeah, I know. But all the same, this is also what I love about being an entrepreneur, Rocky. I love the gamble in the sense of, I'm going to put my time in this and push for an outcome. We decided to launch a new product this year. Well, I should say we decided more than a year ago to launch the product this year. And we put a lot of investment. Software companies do that. You put a lot of upfront investment into it with a theory of what it's going to do. And some of our theories have been proven wrong, like how fast it would sell. We had customers tell us, this is amazing, this is what I've always wanted, and then stop and stop and stop. And why are they stalling? They just said it's the perfect thing they want. And what we realized is we're offering something they've never thought the next step about. They're going to get something they've always wanted, but they don't know what to do with it once they get it. It's, my analogy is, if you had a flying car arrive in your driveway, would you know how to park it, fly it? Do you know what the rules are? Everybody would love to have a flying car, but we don't know the next step yet. But anyway, this is one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur.
So I'll challenge that.
Sure.
If your clients say, this is exactly what I want, say, great, we need 10 new beta clients. I'm going to need $5,000 down because you're going to help make this possible. Are you ready to go? And the answer is either yes or no, right? Either they're going to put up their money, which tells you they are interested, or they're going to say no. Now, the second part of it, because big companies do this, they'll bring in 12 clients. They'll put them in a nice conference room. They'll ask them all these wonderful questions. They'll throw beautiful pictures up and they'll be like, hey, this is our wonderful new soft drink. Do you guys, and everyone, of course, is nice. Oh, I love it. It's the best thing. I'm going to go out and buy gallons of it. And they, at the end, they go, thank you for coming. Here's your $100 for showing up today. I say to them, rather than doing that, at the end of the conference, I want you to just ask one simple thing differently. Here's your $100 for showing up today. Or, by the way, because you've been so nice and because you love this product so much, I'll give you $500 of product, or you can have your $100 in cash. What would you prefer? And that is where you get the true feedback of whether or not they love your soda.
Yeah, I love that idea. I'll just, in my own little defense, our product is quite complex. It requires an implementation, proof of concept, all those things. But here's the irony, Rocky. What they did instead of just stopping is they said, we want your other products first. And that's what threw me off. I wasn't expecting them to want the other products first, but they did. And I figured out what they were doing was doing what they know how to do because they liked us and liked what we were offering, so that they could then get to what they wanted to do. It gave them time to plan for how to actually use the product. And that's what's happening. Those customers are buying.
Give them what they want so you can give them what they need.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, I actually want to go back to something else because I forgot to ask some questions around when you talk about, I'm going to use a phrase that I learned from somebody when I was in college, pay yourself first. It's to me, it's the concept of you, like if you have a salary, you invest in the things that are important to you first before you start spending the money on the new car, the house, whatever, like your 401k perhaps, or the big vacation you have to have. But in running a business, I think it's similar. The idea of profit first is you need to pay yourself a working wage or better. You need to achieve your goals with your business. So I'm just kind of curious, how do you construct the compensation aspect that a founder should have when it comes to having the profitability? Do you look at salary, total compensation, different methodologies? Do you look at just how the company is going to give you dividends in the long run, or you could sell it? What are the factors you think people care about?
We look at all of that, but what we do is slightly different. Okay. So let's take a startup since you've been talking a lot about startups. We're going to start a startup and you come up with a plan, right? And says, all right, at the end of this year, we're going to have 200,000 in sales. I'm going to pay myself $40,000. Okay. We're going to lose money. That's okay. But when every time we sell a product, even though we're losing money, we expect it to be profitable when we sell it. We expect a 15% profit margin on that product. And so what we tell people is, okay, here's your model. Now, in order to make this plan work, you're going to have your seed capital, right?
Sure.
So we take your seed capital, we put it in one bank account, a separate bank account. This is my seed capital bank account.
Okay.
Because every time I take seed capital out and I put it in my business, I want it to hurt. Kind of like pulling $100 bill out of your wallet and handing it to somebody. So month one comes out and you make one sale. The first thing we're going to do is say, well, you told me you were going to be 15% profitable. So we're going to take 15% of that sale and we're going to put it in a separate bank account called profit. You're going to pay yourself first, profit first.
Yeah.
Separate bank account. Now, you projected that a certain amount of that goes to your salary. So we're going to take a small percentage out and we're going to put it in your salary bucket. And we're going to leave it there so that you can actually pay yourself, because a lot of owners pay themselves last. They're afraid to pay themselves. In the beginning, we probably won't put money aside for taxes, but once you get rolling, we're going to put money aside for taxes. And then the remainder is going to go in our operating account. And so now you know, okay, here's my operating account. This is what I have to live on for the month. This is what the business can afford to spend. The next month comes around, you go, okay, there's not enough in my operating account. You're right. I'm going to take some of my seed capital. I said it was going to cost me X amount of seed capital this month. I'm looking at my sales. Yeah, that's about right. And I'm going to move my seed capital over. So now I have my operating. And this month we sell 4 things. And again, we're going to take that 15%. We're going to put it in the profit account. I go to the gym. I build a habit. I don't walk up to the bench and put all the weights on and go, heave-ho, right? I start with an empty bar and I learn my form. We're building the habit of being profitable. We're building a habit of discipline with money. And as we continue to grow, this is the way it works. And so now every time I look at my bank, I'm like, I've got 12 months of expected seed capital. Yes, we're pulling it out at the appropriate rate. I said I was going to be profitable. And you know what? We're putting our profits away and I see my profit account growing. You don't have to spend it. We just leave it there. And over time, you're going to see if your business plan is actually what you say it is and whether you can pay yourself first and whether it's working appropriately. And
I like this.
And then you also have immediate true cash position. Because I look at those accounts, I'm like, okay, this is how much I have for operating expenses. Yeah, I have profit. Yes, I have money to pay myself. And if we're saving for taxes, yeah, the tax account's growing. Like I got guys who have to write a 6-figure check for taxes and they're happy. They're like, oh, it's tax time. Oh, I owe 130 grand. Oh, I got 170 in the tax account. I can stroke that check. Look at me go here. And it's weird because I hate paying taxes. We all do. But the confidence of being able to say, hey, I was profitable and I have to pay taxes and I can stroke a check and sleep at night. It's the power of being able to do that.
Man,
And
I
so,
like that.
yeah.
It says a few things to me. Number one, you have to have some clarity on what your plan is. And I will
Mhm.
admit, when we started our business, our plan was terrible. My gosh. And I'll give you a reason why, because my mom and I started this company. She put in capital, I put in software. So we had a little bit of seed capital. And we figured it wouldn't be hard to sell a product for $150 a year to 1,000 users and make 150,000 within the first 12 to 18 months. That shouldn't be that hard for software. In year one, we signed up 6 total paying customers. And in year 2, we signed 70 more. And so our plan was terrible. The other thing you're saying, though, is that seed capital account feels a little bit like a line of credit. You're not paying it back per se. And you didn't talk about when you start to pay that back, but you have this like a line of credit sitting on the side you pull from when you need it. I'm assuming if you're in month 3 and sales came in and enough money came in, you don't need to draw from the seed capital bank. You don't, right?
No, you don't. And the reason we do this is because when month 3 comes along, let's say there was 150,000 in seed capital. Well, now I got 150,000 in seed capital. I got the money that came in. And how much can I pay myself? And am I really profitable? And oh, I got 150,000. Let's spend. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. You don't
No.
really have that money. That's seed capital. And so it gives you clarity on what's spendable and whether or not you're spending your profit and whether or not you're spending your paycheck.
Yeah. So the other thing that offers the clarity here is you need more seed capital than you probably realize. And
Oh,
that was my
double it.
lesson, right? Double it, triple it, whatever you can do. Because here's the other side of this that I was going to get to. If you have this profit account, how tempting is it to take that profit money out when you're feeling the burn of capital and you're getting low on seed capital or low in your operating account? And for my mom and I, we were out of money in 6 months, frankly. And we had to do jobs on the side to pay the bills and borrow money like crazy to pay the bills. And it all should have gone into a seed capital bank at some point, but hindsight. So how do you thwart that temptation?
So it depends. Some people are disciplined. I'm disciplined. I can let it sit there and I'm okay. Mike Michalowicz, the guy who wrote Profit First, not disciplined.
Oh, funny.
Okay. What he has to do is the seed capital is in a separate bank. There's no checks per se. It
Mhm.
doesn't have a debit card. And if he wants to pull money out of his whatever that profit account is, his check needs to be co-signed by somebody.
Mm.
So he makes it so hard for him to touch that money. And because it's in a separate bank, when he looks, he forgets about it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all I have. This is what I got to work with. I know the money's over there in the back of my head, but it's not front and center. And it's really hard to get that money out. And in that case, maybe you would have had to call your mother and say, Mom, I need money in seed capital. And she'd be like, for what? Right? No, that's not a good reason. You can't spend it on XYZ.
Right.
And so you don't. And this is the other principle in business. Everyone tells me that this is what most business owners do. They go, oh, it's profitable. I'm going to reinvest my profits. Okay. Rich, if I came to you and said, hey, I'd like you to reinvest some of your profits in my business, would you have some questions for me?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
You're
so
right.
what are some of those questions?
What are you going to do with the money, first and
Yeah.
foremost?
What are you going to do with the money? And then,
What kind of rate of return are we talking about?
uh-huh.
When do I get my money back?
Okay. Per- Perfect questions. If you're going to reinvest in your business, I think you need to answer the same questions to yourself.
Sure.
And
Sure.
no, I find a very rare business owner that will do that. They're just
Yeah.
like, oh, we got to try this out. Let's do this. And then they forget. And there's
I-
no return of their profit. And then they
Yeah.
wonder why they're always running and behind.
So this goes back to something else. And I'll just use my company as an example. We're at a stage, I mean, I'm year 23, but many years ago, we got to a stage where we said, we need as executives to pay ourselves, or owners, founders, we need to pay ourselves like an employee that we had to hire.
Yes.
And we do it for a couple of reasons. One is if I suddenly was incapacitated, killed, whatever, and my company is going to keep going, and we have to hire somebody to replace me, we better have the budget for that amount. So
Yes.
therefore, I should get paid that budgetable amount to ensure it's there. And two, it's also, in my view, what you defined as profit. I need a living wage or better than that, whatever you want to call it. So that's one form of doing that. When do you look at that, or do you look at that?
Always. So I don't usually deal with startups so much. I usually deal more with a business. Let's say you've been here at 5 to 7 years. You've grown your revenue. You're like, hey, we're doing 7 figures. And I'm like, yeah, how much you keep? And you're like, well, we're struggling.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with a business like that and say, we can't do this overnight, but what is your actual worth to the business? What should you be paid as a salary? And that would be a starting point. So you're not really profitable at 50 grand because technically your salary was supposed to be 100. So you actually lost 50 grand.
Right.
Right. So let's be realistic. And even though the books don't say you lost 50 grand, you lost 50 grand.
Yeah.
And so I think those things you're doing what you're supposed to be doing correctly. And yes, you need to take the appropriate salary, and you got to go live your life too. Now, if you want to take the money out of the company and go, well, we're going to reinvest, great. But ask those 3 questions and set up a loan payment back to yourself to be able to do that. Be disciplined.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that I was thinking about when I asked you this question. If as a founder, you pay yourself enough of a salary and a compensation to make your life meaningful the way you want, then beyond that, that profit is, life-changing, it's windfall, it's, retirement money, whatever. But like myself, I have a 401k, so I'm building that retirement anyhow. So if we talk about profitability, I think this choice of return is based on, do you have the prospects to grow your company with putting the money back in? And second, how do you measure that? And we started tracking something called return on operations about 5 years ago, which is to say, what is the return on our invested capital essentially? And what is it doing for us? The challenge I have is it's just a number, because I'm not taking that money back. It keeps going back in and keeps going back in and keeps going back in, because we keep focusing on growth. We want to keep growing and invent new products, et cetera. And this would hurt if I wasn't making enough money otherwise. So I'm making enough compensation that it's okay for me to keep making that investment. But I think, to your point, even though we track this return on operation percentage, et cetera, I don't really feel like I know what I'm getting a return on my money. And when do I get to get all that money back? Right?
Let's face it, the world is constantly changing. Okay. And I think if you look back, the internet coming out late 90s, massive change. The iPhone, people don't realize how much the iPhone changed so many industries. Like, everyone says, oh, Kodak lost it because of film. But at the same point, the iPhone replaced the camera. Right. So if you were in the digital camera business, or Garmin selling GPSs, or if you were Palm Pilot selling a PDA, all of those businesses got wiped out.
Yeah.
Today we've got ChatGPT. It's going to wipe somebody out. Okay. Not good or bad. It's just life. And what I say is, there's a book called Richest Man in Babylon, right? Take 10%, put it aside.
Yeah.
So I tell every business owner, I want you to build a nest egg outside of your business, so that no matter what happens in your business, you can always sleep at night. A, it's going to give you comfort, and B, it's going to make you bold. Yeah. Because you are safe. No matter what happens, you are safe. And then if you've got excess beyond that, now we can start making investments. The question is, do I make the investment in this business or another business? And if I'm going to make the investment in your business, meaning your own business, where is my loan payback?
Yeah.
And so you should be paying it back. And then 2 years from now, after you pay it back, if you go, hey, we've paid it back, we're good, things are doing what we said, let's make the next investment. Do it again. You got the money back, go do it again. Nothing wrong with that. It's just bringing the discipline and the truth that we are actually doing what we said we were going to do, and the cash shows it does.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I like about this conversation, Rocky, is that I recently talked to a group of entrepreneurs about how did they compensate themselves as founders. It was all over the board. Some took very little salary because they took tons of dividends. Some took huge salaries, et cetera. I didn't get a sense that many of them were building a nest egg outside their business. They viewed the business as the nest egg that they could eventually sell. And frankly, I don't look at how to sell my company. I get offers and I don't really want to sell my company. So I don't look at it from that standpoint when I say, how do I build up the wealth? I think more in terms of how can I derive wealth out of the business over time? And maybe this is bad thinking on my part. I just think we're going to hit a stage of growth where our costs are just a small portion of the revenue that we could bring in. And I think software companies can scale in that manner. There's something else I wanted to, you brought up ChatGPT a couple of times. So I'm curious your perspective on AI when it relates to what you do with your customers. Is it changing how they're able to manage their numbers better or, have this discipline even?
I have not been able, chat is great at certain things. I think it might be good as they build it into being able to do the bookkeeping. It probably will start to get better on the tax side, but a lot of these questions aren't A and B. They're discernment, and there's a lot more to it. And so I think it makes it harder. The other thing that we really do is accountability. And I don't know if chat's going to be an accountability partner. And so maybe Elon's new robot will come with a hammer and chase you around the house. Maybe that'll work, but I
You're
don't
right.
think
There's certain human behaviors that no AI is attempting to do right now.
correct. So where we use chat, creating marketing material, writing emails. I have a podcast. All my podcasts, it creates the transcript from the video, it creates the notes, it creates all of the clips, it creates the script for YouTube and for LinkedIn. It does all of that for me, and I think it's phenomenal at that. I will take my sales calls and I will put it in chat and I will say, what can I do to improve? What did I miss? How can I make myself better? So it's teaching me. I will take my client calls and say, what do I need to focus on? What did I miss? Where could I have explained something better?
Yeah.
And so forth. So I'm using it to make myself better. From that standpoint, I think it's good. When the internet came out, I don't think we ever imagined this.
No, I know.
And everyone in 2000 said, oh, retail's dead. Well, retail ain't dead.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what the future is, but we're going to have to keep adapting to it.
But it sounds like you're not seeing any really big advances or innovations that AI is driving into finance and accounting tools or systems.
I think they're working on them. I don't have access to them. There are a bunch of tools that are out there right now that will go into your QuickBooks and create all these beautiful reports. But what I find they don't have is discernment. Here's a beautiful report of your P&L and your trends are going this way and this and this and that. And then it's like, but what should I do? What do I do in the next 3 weeks? Now, it might tell me, oh, be aware that your cost of goods has been going up by 5%. Sure. Could it tell me that? But can it tell me how to lower it? I can say, how do I lower cost of goods? And they'll spit out 10 things. Well, now I'm like, well, which of those 10 applies to me and which one should I focus on? I don't think we're at that level yet. I
So I
think
have to
things will
share.
change.
I have to share something with you. I had a guest on my show named Jeff Woods, and his episode was in September of 24, and he wrote a book called The AI Driven Leader. Honestly, it's a game changer.
It is.
Have you read it?
I think I might have heard him speak, or I heard somebody very much like him speak.
Yeah, it's a game changer. Everybody I've given it to is like, oh my gosh, this changes how I use ChatGPT. And I'm actually working on doing more and more and more with ChatGPT or other AIs because of the influence of his book. But to your point, like if you have challenges you're trying to figure out strategically, ChatGPT becomes your thought partner in helping you think through those challenges. And his methodology for how you prompt it, I think, is what's game changing because you start to really interact with ChatGPT differently.
So I don't know exactly what he's going to say, but let me tell you what my game changer's been.
Yeah.
I asked Chat to ask me questions to help it better serve me.
That's a huge one. Yes, absolutely.
And that was a big one for me.
Yeah. I've started to learn to give it way more information than I ever gave it before. Context, documents, transcripts, whatever I have that can fuel it. And in fact, I just started recording audio. I bought an audio recording device, the Plod device. Not sure you've seen it. And I just started recording my story about how I started my company and the competitive landscape and things like that, because I'm going to use that to help fuel how these AIs can give me better feedback on strategy or marketing or sales ideas, et cetera.
So we have custom GPTs for each podcast and a custom GPT for the business. And I've created custom GPTs for my interests. So I have a spiritual interest. I've created conversations to help me better understand the spiritual material I'm reading, turning it into actionable insights, and then having Chat ask me questions about that. And I got to tell you, I've never had a therapist. I've had coaches. Chat's a game changer in that front of challenging me to think about it and tell it back. And then we're going back and forth, and it's a game changer.
Yeah, man, I'm going to run out of time here. And I love this topic. So I shouldn't have saved it to the end, should I? Before I ask my last question and we wrap up, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Before we do that, can I ask your audience a favor?
Please.
Okay. Do you guys like Rich? Is he bringing you value? Have you ever hit the like button there somewhere? It's whatever you're listening on. There's got to be a like button. You can leave a review. That's how you say thank you to people like Rich. Because here's the thing. I know you're busy doing what you're doing right now, and you probably didn't send him an email to thank him. And this is a nice, easy way, because it's a lonely world on this side of the microphone. The two of us are talking, but we have no idea about the rest of you. So be nice to Rich.
Very nice of you to say so.
If you want to come find me, I have two podcasts. One's Profit Answer, man. Literally everything we do for our clients, I share. And I bring my competitors on so that you can learn how they do things and how we think differently. And then the other one that you've been on, Rich, is Richer Soul. It's like, okay, now that you made all the money, what are you going to do with your life? How are you going to live that ultimate life? And so the two feed into each other. Hey, this is how you make the money, and this is how you live life.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on your podcast. It was honestly probably the best episode I've ever been the guest on. And that's based on feedback, comments, how it inspired people. And and I posted it on LinkedIn. I told everybody, I said, I feel really vulnerable putting this out there because I'm sharing things I don't normally talk about. It is called The Richer Soul. So I bared my soul a little bit. But yeah, amazing podcast. Okay, so here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role?
So what Mike Michalowicz did for me was put into words and action what was in my head. And so he's really helped me to see how I can use the value I provide and help business owners. And there's another person who kind of took what Mike did. His name's Jeff Prager. And he told me how to then take that to the next level, because Profit First is very basic. And so those two gentlemen have helped me to literally build a business in a way that has really served me to take my gifts and figure out how to bring them to the world in a marketable way. And that's a big part of what they've done, I think, on the business side.
Nice.
And extremely thankful. I built my business on both of their systems.
Oh, I love that. That is so great. All right. So I got to wrap this up. I want to give a big thank you to Rocky Lalvani, founder of Profit Comes First, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Rocky's website at profitcomesfirst.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easy. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channel for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Rocky, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.